So, welcome to the DexFactor Podcast, and I'm very pleased to be joined today by Jack. Jack is the founder CEO of Recurse ML, and really glad to have you on. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on the DexCast.
Yeah,
no, is it the DexCast?
The DexFactor.
The Dex, even better.
Yeah, love that. So, Jack, you've been the founder at Recurse for a little while now. You started the company a couple of years ago and have been working on the most recent project since the end of last year.
Yeah, December.
Could you explain a little bit what Recurse ML is, what you do, what kind of customers you work with, and what you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, so we're a small team based out here in London, currently relocating to San Francisco. We're essentially trying to build machine learning models that find breaking changes in code that test cases or static analyzers would typically miss. So think like bug identification as part of pull request in your CI, or more recently, we're actually seeing a lot of users kind of add us to tools like Cursor just to improve the code generation capabilities there. Like most of our users tend to fit into two key categories. Open source authors of repos, they tend to love us because as their repo picks up momentum and they get more users, they really struggle with balancing quality assurance and shipping core features of the product. So we just help them do that QA component. And we've actually had some users recently refuse to push code whilst our servers have been down. So hopefully we can get better on uptime. And the second category, we're still figuring that out a bit, but we're seeing a lot of uptick in engineering teams that are currently undergoing a scaling process. So there they experience a similar issue where previously it was small, scrappy, ship everything. Now they've got a lot of users, they really care about production outages, so minimizing those and finding bugs at every step in the development process is crucial to them. So yeah, we just want to help people write great code.
Nice. And what do you like the most about your job?
Team.
Okay.
Team is the best. Like the feeling of going into the office in the morning is like super hype. I have like this morning routine, wake up, have a coffee, work out, have a shower, and then just like aggressively think about like, is today's goals like pushing like our strategic objectives? We come in, we have the stand up, the energy's high, and obviously like we're growing a bit at the moment. So like every new person that joins is kind of like, I don't know like how you feel like as a founder yourself, but like as your team grows, kind of feels like you have that like adage of like family, but like it kind of feels like, oh, like these people believe in me. Like they're not just paying for my product, but they've joined me on this journey. So yeah, like working with the team is absolutely fantastic, and very fortunate to have some great people join us recently.
Nice. And you guys are all in London and you're all in the office
Yeah,
most days? You're an in-person culture?
We are strictly in person. Mostly because if I was left to my own devices, I'd wander off and do things. There's like new shiny things. But I believe that like it's super crucial to be high intent, high intensity. And also you kind of like want to build relationships with the people you work with. I don't know, like during the COVID years, like I was still studying and I was part of like a research group back in Oxford. And like that was super weird. It was like new people would come on, you'd never met them before. And then when you went back to the office like a year later, you're like, oh, like, yeah, like I kind of know you, but I don't really. So I think it's super important to have that like intense work culture, and being in person is key for that. But yeah, like maybe we'll do some remote eventually. Like I myself am moving to SF, so I'll be the remote team member sadly, but I'll come back each month or each quarter and spend time in person.
Nice. That'd be an interesting way to evolve the company as you move abroad, and how do you do that dynamics? You have to move your stand-up time.
Yep, so like we've figured it out, like end of day for me will be like morning sync for the London office.
Okay.
So like maybe I won't have a coffee at the morning sync anymore.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, like there'll be some like teething process. It won't be an easy move, but we believe that it's like one of those like high value, high risk bets that you can make. And ultimately as founders, you're all in the game of like upside maximization, not downside mitigation. And like if I'm being like absolutely brutal, we can easily outcompete financially for talent in the US. Like our pre-seed was above the average YC seed round, so we can do that. But if I'm an engineer looking to join a startup in the Bay Area, just buck standard, I'll join a YC company. It's just lower risk, you know what you're gonna get, and kind of higher probability of success than some Europeans that are coming out of nowhere. Sure, we have like great investors this side, but yeah, if I put myself in their shoes, I'd join a YC company. Whereas here, like, we're not just another London startup. we're an SF-based dev tools company, which means your equity is in an SF-based dev tools company. Our culture is an SF-based dev tools company. So we believe we can create a really unique and sticky work culture here that brings that traditional like hustle and bustle of the Bay Area back into London. So just like SF, but with better food.
Nice. I love that. Going back a step, a bit about your journey. You spoke a little bit about being in the research group back in Oxford, but take us back way before that. What was your first job?
Oh my God. My first job was a junior cognitive engineer. So it was like chatbots back in the day. Well, my first job, I was stacking shelves at Dorothy Perkins, but my first proper job was junior cognitive engineer. So it was during my master's. I used to take a 2-hour bus, 2 buses from University of Warwick campus out into the middle of the sticks, work for like 4 hours on these chatbots. On day 4, completely deleted the entire production code base. Didn't get fired, survived that. But yeah, I was doing that for like 6 months. And like after I paid for the bus fare and after I paid for lunch, I was on like £15 a week, which was brutal. Like my meal every day was like rice, half a pork chop and like a quarter of an onion for like a year. It was like absolute like cockroach mode. So like when people are like, oh yeah, like founders like don't get high salaries, I'm like, no, like this is very comfortable. This is like a lot better than what I'm used to. We pay our team better than that, by the way, just disclosure. But yeah, that was my like first like proper job. My first job was I was stacking shelves at Dorothy Perkins. I was selling shoes. I got fired after 4 days.
Oh dear.
Yeah, like I'm unemployable. That's why I have to be a founder. But yeah, that was when I was 16.
Love that. And was Recurse, was that your first entrepreneurial endeavor, or had you done something before?
No, so like whilst at Warwick as well, I met absolute like brother of mine. I couldn't speak more highly of the guy. My best friend Jonas. He and I stayed back one summer to try to like build this startup. Essentially, we were forward thinking. We were trying to build 3D tours of apartments, but for the purpose of international students coming into the UK. They might not want to book accommodation because they've never seen it before, and there might be like these hidden things like mold, etc. That like when they get there, like, oh my God, I've got to live here for a year now. So we were taking like cameras and building like 3D images of this. Of course, it didn't work out. Thank you, Matterport, for that. Like they pretty much swept up that market. But like I remember this moment that like will stay with me is we were trying to sell to like estate agents, and like we were working in the office until like 5, 6 a.m. One of the cleaners walked in and was like, oh, it stinks in here, because we've been there all night. So we looked at each other and was like, okay, let's go home. And on our way home, we bumped into like one of the people we were trying to sell to on their morning jog. And then we're like in this group, and we went up to them, had a chat for a bit, and then like they literally started taking the mick out of us. There was like, oh, like they said something like, why would we listen to you? You're just kids with backpacks. And it just like, it really like shook us. But like when we fundraised for Recurse, my friend got like a framed photo of like different pictures of us over the years in a collage. And at the bottom it said, remember, you're always just a kid with a backpack. So like that was our first foray like into entrepreneurship. And then I'll try and dig it up. If I can, you should definitely edit in. We basically sent this 7 or 8 minute video of us talking over PowerPoint slides as a sales deck to like estate agents. And like one of the first slides was like team slide. And it was like Jack, AI. And it was like this bar graph, 85%. I don't know what 85% AI means, but like it was like spoken on like the crustiest laptop mics ever. I'll try and dig it up and send it to you, but like, yeah, definitely come quite a way since then. That was almost like 10 years ago now.
That's really cool. That's a great origin story. Thinking about the business that you're building today, you're 5 people.
Yeah, 5.
And growing. Tell me about that process. When you think about growing your team, particularly now, companies are talking about how lean can you be, revenue per employee, all these kinds of metrics that talk about smaller organizations. Tell me about the ethos that you're building Recurse with. Like, how are you thinking about team building?
I think we want to build, it started out as a meme, but like personally, I want to build like this PayPal mafia, where like in 20, 30, 40 years, people look back and the team see Recurse as like the inflection point in their careers. So our first stage interview is like not an interview of the candidate, it's an interview of us. So I always want to understand where do they want to be in the next 3 to 5 years, and objectively, if we can't provide them with that, just like passing them to like other startup founders we know that might be able to like provide that for them. And we're in a unique position as well where like every person we interview for like a technical role is a prospective user of the tool. Everyone needs to have like the absolute best experience of working with us. And if I look back across like some people that like we had interviews with and either they or we didn't want to proceed, they're users now. They stay in touch with us. We've helped place them at like other companies that friends run. But yeah, my ethos is as a CEO, like I have 2 main jobs. One is to be the voice of the customer in the room, objectively, all the time. And the second is to make sure that everyone that joins us on this journey goes on to like achieve what they want in the 20, 30, 40 year career that they have. So I think very much team first. I think founders get way too much credit for the success of a company. As a founder, yes, like you plant the seed, you water it, you help it grow in the early days. But like if you're thinking about like when you're 100, 200, 1,000 employees, like you as the founder are not doing most of the heavy lifting there. So like that's why we also like compensate disproportionately high with equity. I think our equity package is like 4 times market average. So we believe on like high ownership for the team and helping them achieve their long-term goals.
Love that. And I think when you think back of the people that you've hired into the team, or maybe more broadly in your career, tell me about like the favourite hire that you've ever made, or the person that you've brought to the team that's been the most memorable.
I can't pick a favourite hire. I mean, like we've only just onboarded the 4th, and the 5th is like coming in. Thanks to you guys, very soon. It would have to be founding engineer. The first founding engineer, Vincenzo Incuti, goes by Enzo. He's been absolutely mind-blowingly fantastic. So as you mentioned, we founded a company a few years ago, and even like before we fundraised, like he joined, and like someone, I'm not pointing fingers, it might have been me, like miscalculated how much runway we had until like fundraise. So we come in, we offered him like a salary, and then realized we couldn't pay it. And I was like, hey man, look, I'm really sorry. Would you mind going on the same salary as us, which at the time was like £2,000 a month? I was like, would you mind coming on the same salary as us for like 2-3 months? I promise like we'll fundraise, like the equity package is identical. It's just like we jumped the gun, we can't afford it in the short term. Not even like, didn't even think for a second, just took it. And then from day one, was just heads down, never complained. In the early days, we didn't have like a WeWork membership for him. You know how it is, like super poor, like scrappy, didn't complain. We just like had to like share cars to go to the bathroom, not one complaint. We pivoted like after fundraise, and there was that period of like ambiguity for 2-3 months, heads down, never complained. I think he's like that like person that comes along once every like lifetime that just like not only believes in like what you're building, but believes in the team. Because if he believed just in what we were building, he would have left when we stopped building it. So yeah, like he'll always, if I look at like the life cycle of the company, maybe one day like he moves on, he does something else, he'll always be one of the key people responsible for any success we have.
That's awesome. I guess if you're trying to extrapolate that out, if you were giving advice to a founder potentially earlier in the journey to you, what are the traits that make sort of such a great founding engineer? I mean, you've touched on a few things there, but in your mind, what are the, if you're advising a founder, what should they look for in a founding engineer?
I honestly think it's luck. Like, I don't think you can like screen for it that much. I think what we looked for in him was ability to learn fast and learn fast through getting hands-on. And also how serious, actually, if I look back, how serious he took the interview process was a big indicator. Like with him, like we gave him this programming task. Obviously, our hiring processes change over time, but we gave him this programming task and like 2 days to complete it, completed it in 2 days, but like everything was rigorously documented beautifully. Like the solution worked well. We went back to him, kind of had a back and forth around like, oh, like let's introduce like this variable now to the problem. And we assess like how well he took that information on board and things like this. But if I was to take like one piece of advice, it would be like index more on cultural fit than technical. So like he did well technically, but what made him a standout candidate was how serious he took the process. And what makes him a serious standout individual is like, I don't need to like look over his shoulder. I know he's working 100% of the time. I know that when we clock off, so we have dinners together at 7. I know after 7, he's still working. And I never once had to like go to him and be like, hey, like up the game here. Fully self-motivated. I think your ideal first hires are people that you yourself would want to follow, because these are going to be the managers, the senior positions within your organization, and quality dilutes. Why would I want to follow Enzo? 100 reasons. But if we hadn't hired him and we hired someone else, that's the question I'd ask. Like, what about this person inspires me?
Yeah, that's really good. And I guess, you know, in that time on your journey, you know, what have been the kind of the biggest challenges on hiring? Like, what's been the hardest thing about finding the right talent, or, you know, or managing people?
I think we've done pretty well within network, but after a while, like as you get more specialized roles, you have to branch out. And obviously, you constantly get inbound from recruiters. Like it goes. I have a rule. I'll leave it for the first 7 emails, but if you send me an 8th, you're getting filtered as spam.
You're in trouble now.
Yeah, at least it's just too many. I get like 10 a day. So like I think it's very easy to get distracted by recruiters reaching out to you. I don't want like 50 CVs on my desk. I want 2 or 3 that are high quality candidates. And I think that's kind of like why like we're so happy to like be building a relationship with you guys. Is one thing that stood out is on our first call, you said to me, hey, like I'm not the guy that's going to send you like 10 CVs. I'm going to send you 1, maybe 2 a month. But these will be people that you are the right fit for. And I think that's the right way to think about it. It's like, what can you give to this individual? How can you retain them? How can you help them like achieve their goals? Because I think it's easy as a company to sometimes think, oh, like if I make the wrong hire, I'll just fire them. But like, what if that person's like moved their life here? What if that person has a family? Now they've got like 3 months in a company and a gap in their CV. I think it's just like the wrong way to think about it. And if I think about like the biggest challenge we've had hiring, it's just finding high quality people outside of our initial network. And I like to think we've solved that somewhat, like working with you guys. I'm outsourcing that problem to you now.
Well, we're very glad to have it. When you're looking at a candidate's come in to interview with you guys, or a profile's come across your desk, what is it you're looking for? Like, what is it that makes you choose one profile over another, or one candidate over another? And walk us through that process in your mind.
I don't think there's a science to it.
Okay.
I think there's like, so like maybe I'll let you get in ahead of our process a little bit. So like we have like three stages. The first is, as I said, the interview of us. The second is stage 1 technical assessment. I don't believe in leak code style problems, but like we need to make sure that someone has a certain degree of programming efficiency in Python, which is the main language in our stack. And then if they pass that, we have the technical assessment, which is more like the system design style interview. And that is actually a great way for candidates to get a better understanding of what they'd be working on within our organization. So we give them a representative challenge that we're currently facing or have recently solved, see how they think through it, and if they don't like that type of work, they probably like shouldn't accept any offer that might come downstream for us. But yeah, like, sorry, what was the...
Yeah, I'd love to understand, like, you know, you've got that process, you've got the 3 steps in it, you've got the sort of the screening, I imagine, of CVs, and you've got the first round, the technical sort of competence establishing, and then the design. But I guess, like, you know, you'll get, I'm sure that you get a lot of CVs every week. Yep. What makes you decide to take that first call with someone? Like, what is it that you're looking for? Inbound
recommendation has a lot of weight. I think if the recommendation comes from an engineer that I respect or a founder that I respect, I'll normally take the call. I think there's always space in a team for an exceptional individual.
What does exceptional mean? Like, what are the characteristics of an exceptional
Someone
person?
that aligns with the culture, bang on. Our culture is absolutely wacky. Like, well, not we're not going in the office and doing crazy stuff like Wolf of Wall Street, but it's very intense. So like, we expect, I think in our advertisement for the job role, we was like, we want top 0.01% engineer, bottom 0.01% social life. And I've had candidates that like have jumped on the first stage call and be like, oh, like, by the way, like, love that joke. And I'm like, it's not a joke. They was like, yeah, but I've got a girlfriend I want to have dinner with. I was like, that's okay. I'm not trying to convince you to come here, like, if it's not right for you. But the people that get it and buy into it, really get it and really buy into it. So someone that wants the type of lifestyle that we can provide. And we always say to people, and it's like no BS, like if you come and work with us, I can guarantee you within a year, you'll be one of the best in the world at whatever part of the system you specialize in. Evidence of that is Enzo. Like we interview candidates from early stage, like at Mistral to Stanford PhDs, and he blows them all out of the water. When he come in, did he blow them out of the water? No, like he had all of these great qualities, very good engineer, and had the ability to learn fast, which we backed and he outperformed on. But people that come here, and if they do commit and they buy into the culture and they buy into that work commitment, they will become one of the best in the world at what they do. And if that sounds like something that like excites you, gives you goosebumps like it does me, come on board. If not, like it's fine, we're not the right place for you.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said to be really upfront about your culture, to be clear about who you are. Because as you say, you do not need to hire 7 billion people. You need to hire 5. But those 5, they need to find you as well. And I think being clear about what you are and what you aren't makes that an easier process for everybody. I think when you look at kind of most companies' brands, I mean brands in general, but the employment brand as well, it's super generic, super boring, super lowest common denominator, wants to appeal to everyone. And the reality is if you appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one. And so I think it's really important what you're doing there is you're putting a stake in the ground. You know, you're building the lighthouse and you're saying, look, this is who we are. We're going to say it loud, we're going to say it wide, and if it's for you, great, and if it isn't, great. I think it saves a lot of people a lot of time. You were telling me the other day about GitHub and how you read profiles. Talk me through what you look at on a GitHub profile and what it tells you.
I never want to look at a GitHub profile again. I've spent way too much time doing that, but it does yield really good results. So like one process that we did largely manual in the early days were, say if we wanted an engineer that like had like a specific specialism, we'd look at open source GitHub repositories that are like in that space, and we'd look specifically at people that were contributing to relevant parts of the system. We'd then go to their profile, understand what other things they're working on. And what I essentially want to see there is like an absolute forest of green, but not just forest of green for the sake of like push it. Like I don't want like 1,000 commits a day. Like sure, like there might be empty commits, there might be small things. I want like meaningful substance to the contributions they're making, and like hyper relevant to what we're doing. It takes a while to like not find these people but filter them, because you need to look at the code, you need to understand like what they're actually contributing, how difficult it potentially was to design or build that component. Also looking at PRs they've submitted, the back and forth there. Yeah, like we've had a few really good candidates. There was one candidate we didn't end up hiring that I was really bullish on. Sadly didn't pass one of the technical bars, which is admittedly very high, so it's not their fault. But there was this candidate from Japan. He's like really big in the NeoVim community. They're super cool. The energy was there. The cultural buy-in was there. Like, absolutely love them. I'm kind of like sad that like we didn't bring them on board. Hopefully there's like room down the road to work with them. But yeah, I found them that way. It was GitHub. The profile was like ridiculous. It was like 2,000 plus.
I think I know this CV.
We'll exchange it off cam.
Yeah. Let me. I think I know.
Is it beginning with an R?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
love that.
I think I know who we're talking about. Okay, cool. You've been a founder for a few years now. Right? I've been a founder for 6 months. What's been in that time you've been on that journey, what's been the biggest learning for you?
Oh, can I condense it into one? Nothing is possible without your co-founder.
Okay.
For me. I know that there's been very successful high-profile cases of like solo founders. I think Barney from Clio is like a great example of like what a solo founder can really achieve. But like I remember like in the early days, like so we went through Entrepreneur First, and there like you have a demo day, and we were like one of the highest performing in our cohort. We had like partnership at the time. We were doing simulating social interactions with social media content to predict social backlash risk for PR agencies. So some work I did on my PhD around social simulations. That was for the disinformation campaign perspective though. But we were essentially in a field that we knew deeply about. and we had like agreements in place with like some of the largest PR agencies in the world, and on paper it looked great. And we were pushed to fundraise, but we had signals that the market was shrinking. And the signal for that was account managers spent about 2% of their time acquiring new business, and the rest was just trying to retain what they have. So I remember like we made the hard decision to like not cling to dead body for warmth, and decided to like pivot out. And we started from the principle of what group of users would we love to talk to irrespective of the topic, and then months down the line ended up doing what we're doing now. But I remember sitting December of 2023 in a WeWork in Aldgate, which is a disgusting WeWork, by the way. It's an absolute dungeon. There's almost no lighting in the basement. I'm pretty sure the barista has depression. I would. It was terrible. And I remember just like sitting and staring at my co-founder, Armin, and like in my head, I'm pretty sure in his head as well, he's like, is this it? Like, have we pushed as far as we can as a team? And like, I had this like profound moment where I just looked at him and I was like, no, like there's life in him. Like he's still here. There's no question his head turned. Like I need to show up for him the same way that he shows up for me. And I think like it's very easy to be like, oh, like I as an individual like have my own goals, dreams, aspirations for myself, for my family. But like so did your co-founder and so do your team members. So for me, like, yeah, like a couple of months down the line, we fundraised, pivoted again, like, but having someone that you know, like when you go into the dark is going to be there, like holding a torch is invaluable. I think we're in a game of upside maximization, but like it is a war of attrition for founders. It's often the things outside of the job that mentally get to you and beat you down. So for me, my co-founder is like that solid rock in a storm.
Where did you guys meet?
Yeah, Entrepreneur First.
You met through here?
Yeah, so like it's like speed dating for founders. We take very different approaches. So we matched up after like week 3 of the program. I come in last minute, like they were just like, hey, like we've known you for years. Do you want to spot in the cohort? I was like, yeah, sure. Moved my life from Oxford to London in like a day and started, and everyone knew each other. So like I teamed up with someone day 1, worked with them for 2 weeks, and then told everyone, hey, like I don't know anyone. I'm gonna just talk to people for the next week and like get to know them. Armin had already been in like 8 co-founding relationships in that 3 weeks time. And everyone was coming out with the discussions of like, man, I cannot work with this guy. He's too intense. He's too intense. He's too strict with his timings. Like he wants to like rush everything, deliver it as quickly as possible. So like curiosity peaks. I was like, how intense is this guy? And he is intense. Like and that's why I love him. One of the reasons I love him. But everyone else was just bloody lazy. They were just so lazy. It's like, what are you here for? Like, if not to like run and chase like your dream of like not being a founder, but building something meaningful. And he was just like rigorous and obsessive with it. And even now, like that passion's still there. Like he's very high intent, very high purpose, and that's inspiring to be around. I think he's a great leader and a great co-founder because of that.
Nice. Do you think a founder can be successful without a dose of that?
I don't think I'm qualified enough to have an opinion on that. I wouldn't consider myself a successful founder. I think success is retrospective, right? It's like maybe if we're sitting here in 5 years' time, if we've IPO'd or we've sold the company, but I don't think failure is a negative thing either. I think if I look at like where I am now, it's standing on the shoulders of 2 things: every failure I've ever had and every person that's ever helped me. So like I'm not scared of the failure, but if you're asking like, can a successful founder like have that? I don't know, I'm not successful yet, we'll see.
That's really interesting. What are you most proud of?
What, about the company or like in life?
Whatever.
I'm a really good uncle to my nephew. He's like my best friend. I'm super proud
How
of that.
old is he?
He's 10. I take him to football every weekend. The team knows like I work intensely, but Sunday is football day for my nephew. Take him football, play video games. Yeah, I think the thing that I'm optimizing for in life is being there and being present for people that I have a close relationship with. And I think it come from like, I had this thing that I went through, like as a founder, you go through lots of mental battles, and I was like, who am I? Like, what do I stand for? And I looked like at people that had meaningful lives for me, and I realized that the person that had the most meaningful life was actually my grandmother. And she never worked a day in her life. No, sorry, she worked 6 months at Barclays Bank as a clerk. But what made her life meaningful was she was just always present. So I tried to do that.
Present for her family, present for her
Present
friends?
for her family. She didn't have many friends outside the family, not at least in my lifetime. But yeah, that's what I'm optimizing for, being present for my nephew. I'm very proud that I'm able to do that. But also, hopefully, like I can be present for everyone that joins me on this journey, because everyone's a son, daughter, brother, aunt, uncle.
Yeah, that's a lovely story. What when you think back over the years at Recurse and sort of in your career or in any context, what would you say has been the biggest obstacle that you've had to traverse?
Recurse or anywhere did you say, sorry?
Whatever context you like.
Ooh, that's a good, I'm gonna have to think on that.
What's the one that jumps into your mind?
I think just getting started. Just getting started is probably the biggest obstacle. It's like, I think we were having a chat like shortly before we started around like the founder journey. And I'll be honest, I don't think it's like complex. I think it's very simple, but it's not easy. It's like, you know what you need to do. And it's not about knowing what to do, it's about knowing what not to do. If I look back across like, even if I look at my daily role, like it's a series of simple steps that I need to do. At the fundamental core of it, I need to talk to users, understand what they like, understand their pains, their problems, relay that, like build a better product, build something people need. Super simple. But it's not easy. If it was easy, like we'd be further along than we are now. We'd all be billionaires, like everyone would do it. So yeah, I don't think there's like a particular obstacle. I think it's just getting started, and it removes that fear of like, oh, I can't. It's like I have a fear of falling. I don't say heights because I can stand in a tall building and not be scared. So I have a fear of falling, and like sometimes, like when I was a kid, I'd be on holiday and we'd like jump off like this small, not cliff, but like small, cliff, like into water. And like the first time you do it, like your legs are shaking, you're nervous. But then once you've done it once, you're excited to do it again. And it's like, I think the fear of failure is the biggest paralyzing factor in most people's lives. It's like, oh, I'm gonna look stupid. Okay, but like, I'd rather look stupid amongst friends than like stupid amongst like people that I don't know. So like, we are super transparent, even like within our team, we're super transparent when we don't hit metrics. And we reflect on why we don't hit them. But yeah, I think it's the biggest obstacle was probably just getting started. It took me a bit too long to do it full time.
It's an interesting one, because I think like in my reflections on sort of like what's difficult about this job is it's, as you say, often you know what you need to do, but then you sometimes don't do it. And you kind of, either it feels awkward or it feels like it's difficult, so you want to push it. And I think I remember sort of speaking to Harry, my co-founder, the first week we started the company, and I was like, what's great is you can just do stuff. You can just go, oh, I should do that. And then instead of there being any other thing that happens, you can just immediately do that thing. Whereas working in like a large organization, or even, to be honest, even small organizations, where, you go, oh, I should do that. And then you sort of think and go, oh, but, so-and-so needs to be involved, or I need to kind of double check with X, Y, and Z, and this, that, and this, oh, there's an approval for that. And then before you know it, that thing just doesn't happen. And you get distracted and you move on to the next thing. And so I think it's just about closing the gap between I should do that and it's done. And the shorter that gap can become, if that can become seconds, then actually you're right. Each thing that you need to do is in its own is pretty simple. And if you can just get into the habit of dispatching things, and there's a rhythm in that. And when you get into that rhythm, it feels great, because you feel like, in 20 minutes, like yesterday in 20 minutes, I probably made about a week's worth of progress, because I just managed to get into a flow state and I managed to just move the ball forward on about 5 or 6 really important things. And then I have some days where, none of that happens, where I'm just like back-to-back meetings. I come to the end of the day and I go, that day just did not hit the mark for me. And so I think it's about trying to get as many of those former days as possible, get into that flow state, be as kind of ruthless about just getting the job completed, and overcoming those obstacles is kind of what keeps me. That's the kind of mental game I'm trying to get myself into as much as possible.
I think there is a balance to be struck there, though. It's like, I think there's a beauty in where like you and hopefully your team can have ownership over like fixing problems that they see or pushing things that they know are important as they arise. But I think also like you need to make sure that like you're not stopping at every dog that barks. So like that's why it's really important to have a good team, because they'll be able to differentiate between what actually pushes the needle for the company and what's maybe something nice to have. So if I'm thinking of like the code base, oh, like, yeah, maybe we should refactor that. Okay, but like, is it breaking anything at the moment? No. Okay, we'll get to that later then. So yeah, I think quality of team allows you to have more of that.
Yeah, we've been working together for a little while now, Dex and Recurse, and we're super happy to be supporting you and supporting you on more roles going forward. It'd be great to understand like what you felt was the benefit of working with us and how that was different from potentially working with other suppliers, other agencies, or other tools.
Yeah, I think the main thing that stood out for me is obviously like as a founder, like you receive a lot of inbound for these things. I don't know if you receive them as well. If people don't like filter their like emails. Yeah,
I get them.
So you know how annoying it is. But sometimes people will recommend people to you, right? And everyone that was coming as an inbound recommendation was sending me 20, 30, 40 CVs like a week. And it was just a volume game. And like what ends up happening is you pick someone out, you have an interview with them, you realize they're not the right fit. And then you've just wasted like half of your week interviewing candidates that realistically were never going to go through the door. I think what really stood out is on our first call together, you said something that stuck with me, and it was, I'm not going to be the guy that sends you like 10 CVs a week. I might send you 1 or 2 a month, but like I know that person's going to be right for you, and you're going to be right for them. And I think that's an important thing. Like our interview process, the first stage is the candidate interviews us. So finding someone that shared that mindset. Yeah, and the proof's in the pudding. You sent me 2 people. I would have hired both. We did hire 1.
There we go. And I guess like compared to when you've worked with other agencies and when you've worked with other people, I guess like what does that hit rate look like in comparison to others?
We've never hired anyone from another agency. We have literally sat through over 100 calls and never hired one. The other hire that we made, well, our first hire was in network. Second hire was one of our users, recommended one of their founding engineers. Absolutely cracked guy. I love him. He's just joined. And then third one was you.
Well, Jack, it's been awesome to have you in today. We're excited to be on the journey with you and see, where you get to with Recurse and help you as much as we can. But thank you so much for coming in, and we'll have you back again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll look at the camera now. Bye.
There you go. Cheers.